This week, I closed 28% of the sales calls that I took, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it. Let's pull up my numbers from this week so I can actually show you guys all of the metrics, how many calls I took, how many showed up, and how many I closed. Now, before I jump into doing that, I'm gonna ask you guys for a favor, since I'm helping you out. Click the red button below, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, so that'd mean the world. Also, if you run a real estate SMA and you're trying to sign your first client, or you're trying to scale to 25K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month, off-campus coaching, I've been developing this program over the last 7 months. It can help you scale and get to whatever point you're at. I've scaled our real estate SMA to $230,000 a month, and now I wanna help you. There's resources, miles long, that we've developed over the last 5 years, recordings, sales call recordings, how to master service delivery, how to increase your retention rate, everything you need to scale or sign your first client. If you click the first link in the description, these calls are actually with me. Only if you're serious. There is a large upfront investment, but if you're serious, you wanna make this happen, you wanna scale, you wanna sign your first client, click the first link in the description and book in a call. Okay, now that you can see my screen, I'm just gonna show you this week because I don't want you guys, pocket watching, doing a bunch of calculations and trying to figure a whole bunch of shit out. As you can see, from October 18th to October 24th, so ad spend, we spent $2,200, and ad spend, we had 29 discovery calls booked, 16 came from paid ads, 10 came from cold, and 3 came from inbound. If you wanna know the difference, ads is from all the different meta ads that we're running on Instagram and Facebook. Cold means that they came in through following us, and then we sent them an Instagram DM or through a Facebook group, or they connected with us on LinkedIn, we sent them over a message, something along the lines of that. And then inbound means that they came in from the website. So from that, we had 18 sales calls that I took, 13 offers made. If you wanna know what offers made means, it means some of these sales calls I take, even though we do qualify them, and we have Cami, shout out Cami, our setter, calling these people and trying to answer questions and see if they're qualified. Some of them I still join them like, okay, I have a 15-20 minute conversation with them at the start of the call. They don't qualify, see you later. Closed deals, 3 from the ads and 2 from the cold leads, 0 from inbound. Total client signed 5. Revenue generated 44,000, cash collected 37,000. MRR 6337, outstanding invoices 5,755, refunds. So our ROAS return was 19.98x. Our cash was 7.7x. Show up rate 62%. That ideally we'd want to be a little bit higher, but offer to close rate 38.5%. Show to close rate 27.8%, and overall total close rate of 17.2%. Which I barely even look at this because it doesn't really matter, but I look more at how many people showed up, the close rate, which would be 28%, and then our cost to acquire a client of $440, and LTV to CAC, obviously very good. There you go. So I want to show you guys those numbers so you can actually see the calls that I've taken and kind of the real actual stats behind what it is I'm going to be talking about here. So this isn't theory. This is just all real stuff from my own experience. There's going to be a lot of people out there who think I absolutely suck at sales, and that's completely fine because there's a ladder effect, and to be honest, I'm looking at people above me and I do suck at sales. There's a lot of learning that I also need to do myself. But what's worked for me consistently boils down to 3 key things. The last one being easily the most important, which is why I put it last. So let's kind of get into how you guys can get a 28% close rate. Now, before I get into these 3 tips, there needs to be a perspective shift from what your job as a sales rep actually is. The most common mistake sales reps make is taking objections personal. And that just means you're not grounded with who you are and what it is that you're actually trying to do. Because what will happen is people will hit someone with an objection, and then the sales rep, you go into defense mode and you start to ramble, over-explain, you're talking fast, and none of that actually helps you close the deal. Why? Because you're taking it personal. And that is the fastest way to lose control of a call. Instead, what you need to do is realizing that your prospect is probably projecting. What I mean by that is that they're just projecting their insecurities onto you. And it's your job as a sales rep to keep them accountable. And that's the hardest part, because you need to call them out respectfully and guide them back to the truth of what it is that they're actually talking about. So the hardest part of doing sales is being super comfortable with who you are, what you're talking about, and being grounded with yourself enough to not take any objection personal, not get defensive and mad and start rambling and over explaining and kind of like, just yapping about whatever to try and prove them wrong. It's about realizing that person's probably projecting. You want to hold them accountable respectfully and share your perspective or opinion on what they're talking about and change their belief system, change their limiting belief in order to actually close them. That is what separates a good sales rep from a great sales rep. Now let's get into these 3 tips. Tip number 1 is stop selling emotionally. This one's gonna hurt some feelings, but if you're selling emotionally still in B2B sales, you're an absolute idiot. The example that I always like to use is imagine trying to emotionally sell to someone like Alex Ramosi. It's not gonna happen. Smart business owners need logic and proof. They need to understand and see the entire process of something just making so much sense and helping them solve XYZ problem if they want to do it. You 1,000,000% need to stop selling emotionally and start selling logically. Very quick story for you. Gabe and Mick, 2 guys that joined off-campus coaching 3 months ago, they were selling emotionally for like 4 or 5 months. And if you watch an interview that I had with them, you'll actually hear them talk about that. It just wasn't working. Their close rate was shit. And they ended up changing and starting to sell more logical based. Everything changed for them. They went from doing like 1, 2, 3K a month to $24,000 last month. And it's just based off of very simple changes that resonate with the people in your niche and what you're trying to sell them on. Tip number 2, and this might be more from my experience and just what I like doing, but it's selling with visuals and a presentation. I like to keep people captivated in the call and actually show them examples so they can see what's going on and kind of follow along with the process. I've been in a lot of sales calls just for other services that I've inquired for, and the amount of times I've just been so lost with like, what the fuck is this person even talking about? Because they're just rambling on. They're not asking me like, hey, you understand anything, any questions up until now, or this all makes sense to you? They ask me 0 questions. There's no visual presentation. I can't follow anything. I can't see any examples, and I'm just lost the whole time. So I've been a huge believer in having a very good presentation where people can follow along. You got examples in there. You're showing them the entire process. You got to check in and ask them questions on different slides to make sure they understand everything. I like to just keep it interactive, keep them engaged, and that'll make them believe more in the solution. My personal opinion, that one might be a hot take, but I like to have a presentation. Tip number 3 is don't be a sales rep. Here's what most people do that absolutely kill the energy, and they'll lose the deal right in the beginning, is setting a frame for the actual call. And what I mean by this is that you join and you say, hey Johnny, so just so you know, we're gonna be going over XYZ throughout this call, and near the end, we just want a yes or no. I'm gonna walk you through the process, ask some questions first at the beginning. You good with that? It's just like, or saying, I have 45 minutes, a very packed schedule here, so we're gonna be walking through the process, simple yes or no we'll do at the end of the call. It's just like what every sales rep has ever done over the last 3, 4, 5 years. What you need to do is join and just be real, be yourself, be excited, and bring high energy. That's all you need to do. And start asking the questions and start diving into the discovery process. You don't need to follow a script. You don't need to set a frame. You can do everything you're supposed to do by just being normal, being an actual real person, and just sounding like you're genuinely trying to help them. You just start asking questions and being fucking normal. Now, what you don't want to do also is ask the weather. Never ask how the weather is in the area they're in. That's just the most fucking botched thing you can ever do as a sales rep. Is everyone asks how the weather is. You don't actually care. No one cares about the weather. So never join and do that. Now, this is the bonus tip, but this is energy is everything. People feed off of energy. If people feel like they trust your offer and trust you, they're gonna close. So whether you've had 6, 7, 8 calls before your 9th one that are absolutely shit, you need to be joining all of your calls like people have 10 million in the bank, and at any point in time, they're ready to pull out their Amex card and buy your services for however much you're selling it for. That mindset shifts everything, and that's something that I've always done since the beginning, is bringing the energy, being excited, being happy, changing the tonality throughout the call to keep people engaged. Like, way too many people are they're just dead. They just look lifeless. Like, they're just taking, 10 calls a day, and they're just kind of going through the motions, going through the process, and they think that their presentation or what they're saying is actually going to close the deal. But when you bring the energy and you're excited and you're changing your tonality, that will change a lot for you. So to recap, the 3 keys to my 28% close rate is selling with logic and not emotion, use visuals and walk people through a clear process, be human, bring high energy, and ditch the salesy act. So yeah, this has taken me multiple years to figure out, and probably over 1,000+ sales calls now at this point, and I'm still learning. Like I said at the start of this call, I'm not perfect. I'm very far from the best. I have off weeks as well. I'm recording this video because that week was great. Don't think that that's every week. 2 weeks before that, it was, absolutely shit. So there's a reason for me recording this video. I can also record one talking about, how our close rate was 6%, but no one's really going to gain a whole lot from that. But just so you know, that shit does happen. Like, let's be real here. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching the video. If you thought this was helpful, comment down below, like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.